Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool Fisher-Price record player video for you this evening. I have a collection of stuff here that we're going to mess with. I was at the thrift store earlier today, and they had one of these Fisher-Price record players. Now, when I was a kid, I never had one of these. I never saw it. I don't remember them. But I've seen them over the years, and I always thought, that's kind of interesting. It's kind of like an electronic device that appears to be aimed at kids. It's just strange, that they would make a record player, a real record player, aimed at kids. So I noticed that you can't pull this way up. So I was thinking, you'd think they'd break the needle. And like when I was a kid, I would beat these things up if I had one. But anyway, so like I said, I never had one when I was a kid. I did see at a thrift store a while back a tape player made by Fisher-Price. Very similar to this, but it has you can put a cassette tape in it. But they wanted like $25 for it or something, so I decided not to get it. I might get one in the future if I find a good deal on one. But anyway, I picked up a record player, one of these Fisher-Price record players. Now, just so you know, I am not a big audio guy. So I would imagine that when these things work, they don't sound good at all. But that doesn't really matter to me. The reason I wanted to get it was because I just liked how it looked. I thought it's just interesting that they made a kid's record player. And I think it's, I like these little portable record players. I think they're neat. And so I saw it. It was $10. It's probably from, I would guess, early 80s, maybe late 70s. So I bought the thing. So I brought it home, and I was doing some painting, and I thought, you know what? Let's paint some stuff, and I'll put on the record player. Now look, I got all these radios and stuff, but I thought, I'll put on a record player, and put a record on, and while I paint, and it'll make it go quicker, and that'll be fun. Because I got a whole bunch of records I've been trying to listen to. So I got out my Occasions record. Do you know about the Occasions? The Occasions had this song called Girl Watcher. So I've heard this song a million times all through my life, right? I was at the flea market a while back, and I saw this record. Look at this album cover. Can you believe this? I mean, you'd get arrested if you tried to make this album now. So anyway, so I got out the record. And I was listening to a Merle Haggard record too. And I put it on the Fisher-Price record player, which says works. $10. So I bought it at the thrift store earlier today. It works. It's $10. That's why I bought it. It don't work. They don't know what works means. So it's actually this one, right? So I've got two. I've got two of them here. So at the thrift store earlier today, I got this. It says works, $10. Let me open it up. Right. So that one don't work. So you might wonder, well, where did this one come from? I popped the record on this one, and it spins, but you don't get any kind of amplification at all. I'll show you here in a second. And I mean, there is what passes for a needle on the thing. Or I guess. You hear it. You hear the music. It's just not amplified. So we're going to try to mess with that. So they don't know what works means. I guess they just saw it spinning and they said it works, but they didn't even test the needle. You know, if you rub the needle a little bit, it should make a little noise. So it doesn't work. So I could take it back and get my $10 back, but I think I'm just going to fix it, right? So then I started thinking, remember I'm painting, so I need something to listen to something. And I started thinking, didn't I get one of these like a long time ago? So I go looking and I find this one that I've had apparently for about 15 years sitting around the house. And it's the exact same one. I mean, it's the same color and everything. I think there's different colors, but maybe not. So I plugged this one in and it don't really work either. So, but we're going to play it just a second here. So what happened was when I plugged it in, I put it on 33 and it was too slow. So it's, you know, it's been sitting, like I said, I've had it for probably 15 years. And I've never even plugged it in till today, right? So I plugged it, when I put it on 33, it wasn't moving fast enough. So when I first plugged it in, it's making this horrible humming from the motor, and it was playing so slow. I was playing a Merle Haggard record earlier too. Merle was going, biggest city, turn me loose. So real slow, right? So I turned it down so I didn't have to hear it. And I let it run for about 5 minutes. And the speed fixed itself. So I guess something is messed up. So we're going to figure that out too. I'm going to take both of these suckers apart, right? So this one, it plays now. And it amplifies, but it sounds like crap. When good love's a stranger. How can one get love when one will not get love? So if during this video any of the audio just disappears for a while, it's because they started complaining and I had to mute it. You know, the powers that be don't like you playing music. So it works, but it doesn't sound very good. And the 45 appears to work. All right. So we'll test that too. These labels I need to glue back on. So I think I'll use some of my good German craft glue on that. And I want to see why it's humming. I want to look at how the turntable actually turns because it was moving really slow and now it's moving fine. So I don't know, there's something going on there. And then this one here doesn't amplify at all. Let me get the cord out from underneath that one. I'll plug it in and show you what this one's doing. Okay, so this is the one that I got today. That's, whoa, that's works. Same loud rumbling. So is that just the needle or is that? Yes, that's just the needle. So we're just picking up the noise from the needle. So I don't think it's amplifying at all. So we'll see if we can fix it. What I was going to say is, I'm not real picky about how good the quality is on a record player. So, you know, I'm not saying I'm going to use this as my personal record player for the rest of my life. I'm just saying, if the thing's not, you know, a great sounding record player, and if the weight of that arm is so heavy it's going to scratch the records, I don't really, you know, I'm probably going to listen to this record 2 or 3 times and then never listen to it again. But I can't even really tell if the quality's better or worse. However, that one that's working, it doesn't really sound very good at all. So I don't know if that's just because it's such a crappy record player that it never sounded good at all, or if, you know, a cap kit might help it. So that's what I'm going to try to figure out. So, all right, so this one's completely dead. We might get lucky and there's like a wire broke or something. So I think what we do is maybe we take this one apart first. What do you think? So I'll put the record up and we'll, let me see if I can figure out how to get into the thing. All right, so on the bottom, somewhere I just saw a copyright. Yeah, 1978. And it appears to have security screws. That's kind of weird. I see those on arcade game stuff all the time, but I wouldn't think they'd put it on consumer electronics. But maybe since it was a kid's toy, they didn't want kids getting in there or something. I don't know. Okay, so let me see if I've got anything that can take that out. It looks like it's a 3-slot, a tri-wing screwdriver. So I'll see if I can take those out. Well, it's been about 3 days. Look at these freaking screws. Now, apparently, everybody probably already knew about this, but I did not know about this. Do you see our problem? There's nothing that fits that head. Like it's raised in the middle. And there's a little point in the middle. And then there's 3 wings on the side. It's not your typical 3-way. There you go, that's pretty good. Look, they're even sloped. So they slope to a point in the middle. And it's 3, not 4. So it's like a Phillips screwdriver, but with 3. There, that's a perfect view of it. But with 3 blades, and it's inverted. So I've never seen anything like that before. So I got out my security bit set, and this was the only thing that's inverted in the entire set. So if you mess with this long enough, if you slide this down in there, you can grab 2 of those prongs. And then I used a little hand thing. And also, this slid down in the body so far that only a little bit of it was sticking out. So if you put it in a socket, the problem you get is it just goes way up in the socket and won't turn, right? So I put some stuff, some little fibers from the carpet. I'm installing carpet. So I put some little fibers from the new carpet in there to fill up about half of the socket. So only the very end of it is open. And then I messed with it and messed with it and messed with it and messed with it. And I got all 4 of them out. So now I don't know what it looks like in there or how it even comes apart. We're upside down. Let me see if I can get the bottom to pop off of it. Watch there be a couple more. There are, aren't there? Oh no. I'll be back in 2 days. I got you, sucker. Okay, so you know, we work on arcade games, so we've got all kinds of security bit sets. So this is in most of your security bit sets. It's a tri-wing bit. This doesn't fit much. You will hardly ever use this. Like I said, we work on arcade games all the time. I don't know if I've ever used this. Now, if you've got a really small one of these, it does take apart some of the Nintendo Game Boy stuff. But I honestly don't know what they use these in. Not much. But Joey is, you know, he uses a Dremel all the time. So I had Joey take one of these and invert it with a Dremel, cut it back so that it will fit that crazy head on the screws. Okay. And then I used one of our long sets. We've got a couple sets that have these long ones. So this was that same piece. This was a tri-wing, and Joey went to town on it with a Dremel and just turned the point, you know, inside. And that works perfect. So I will save that and won't have any problems in the future. Now, interestingly enough, I got one of the smaller bits stuck in there while I was trying to mess with it, so I messed it up a little bit there. But interestingly enough, look at these marks on the outside. That's from, I guess, the cord being wrapped around it and being hot, maybe. You know, that cord wraps around there. And I guess it got hot at some point and started melting the plastic. I don't get that, but so this is like a strain relief, I believe they call it. So if the kid pulls on the wire too much, it won't pop apart. Oh, look, we've got the same thing going on there. Look, the plastic has melted. I don't know. Maybe it's made like that, but I don't know why they would make this like that, because you would never line it up with that. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't mold it like that so that the wire should lay perfectly in there. I mean, it's not even. That has to be something that melted, and it's nothing extra. It's part of the original casting. So it's done it down there too. All right, so let me pop all that out. Finally, we made it in there. Okay, so this one is the one that has no amplification, but you can actually hear the needle picking up the record. And of course, the turntable is turning. So, So I guess that would be the turntable motor, obviously. It must have some kind of idler wheel that interesting. I don't know. I mean, obviously this part is working fine. It's just I guess we can take that loose. Okay, power is attached there, but that must be fine because, again, the turntable is moving. Here is the pickup, I suppose. Let me think. Yeah. So that must be the wires from the pickup. And runs over to here. there's just a little speaker. I guess the speaker could be blown. That could be our problem. The speaker looks fine. So I'm going to carefully trying to see if the leads to the speakers seem fine, but we'll probably have to test it with a multimeter to make sure. And then over here, we have what constitutes our amplifier. Not much to it. Three capacitors. A pretty nice potentiometer. Two resistors, a ceramic capacitor, and a diode. So what would our problem be, folks? What is this little amplifier chip? It is an LM386. The top of that, the M8524, is probably, if I was going to guess, that's a date code. It's the 24th week of 1985. Now this thing says 78 on it, but that of course would be the date of the patent, probably. So it very well could be that in 85 they were still making them. This thing's kind of evergreen, isn't it? Okay, so we could have an open capacitor. The resistors look fine. I'll bet if we check those, they're fine. I'll bet the diode's fine. And the ceramic cap is probably fine. So if I was going to guess, we've probably just got a failure of this LM. Was it 384? 386. This LM386. I would guess that's definitely the problem. That would just be my guess. Of course, the three electrolytics, I guess we could replace. So I think what I'll do is I'll replace the three electrolytics, and then I will see if I've got a LM386. I probably do. Maybe we'll get lucky and it's bad solder or something. I don't think so, though. Stuff like this, when it's inside something where nobody's ever touched it, you're unlikely to have bad solder just because it, there's no movement or anything. Very cool. So it didn't take much for them to make this all happen. All right, I'm going to take the motor off just so I can see how that interfaces. That's kind of neat. So the motor just has a small shaft, which means there's going to be some kind of idler wheel arrangement up on the top to change the speeds. Well, no, not necessarily. I guess they could be controlling the speed of the... No, I'll bet they're somehow moving an idler wheel. Okay, so you've got different thicknesses on this shaft, so it could be that like the idler wheel moves up or down to change the RPMs. But all of this looks fairly simple. Now it's getting a lot of motor noise. Whenever it's moving, it's going whoa, 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 on the one that amplifies, which could be these motor mounts. So if you separated that, you might even be able to do it with like electrical tape or something to kind of isolate it a little bit. But all right, so I'll put that back, and then I think if we take this clip off, the whole turntable will come off and we can see what the idler setup looks like. So the turntable just lifts right off once you take that little clip off. And I gotta tell you, this thing has a bunch of sticky residue on it, which is like dried up grease or whatever. It's very tacky and sticky. That's gonna gum that all up to where it runs too slow. So if we clean that and just oil that shaft a little bit, this thing is gonna work a lot better. So if yours is going too slow, that's probably the reason. Now, the little idler wheel, it's crazy how all this is plastic and it works, you know? Let me see if I can show you the wheel. The wheel itself, the idler wheel, is kind of, it almost feels like foam, but it's stronger than that. And strangely, there's no, maybe that's it. Yeah, there it is. See the dimple in it right there? Right there. That's where that's been pressed up against that shaft while this thing hibernated for 25 years or whatever long it was. It sat like that for probably decades and it got a little dent in it. But I don't really care. It'll have a little warble at a certain place. It'll speed up just slightly for a second, you know. But I don't really care. Okay, so we're off right now. If I move this lever, that lever underneath there is going to do something here. So we're off. If I go to 33, okay, that's 33. So the reason it's not touching is because the platter's not on. If the platter was on, it would take up that gap right there and move that in to where it's touching. So that's 33. Now 45, I'll bet, drops down. Yep. So they just have it set up so that there are two thicknesses of this shaft. The motor turns at the same speed, and depending on if it's down or up, it changes the speed. Now I would probably, you don't want to oil the edge of this rubber foam ring. It's a little bit kind of, it has like a texture to it, but you want that because if you don't have that, it'll slip against this plastic platter, which has no texture to it. So that'll help it turn. I wouldn't oil this because it's plastic on plastic. So there's nothing really there that you can oil. I wouldn't oil that. You would want to oil the shaft of the motor like any motor, and you'd want to clean all this up. Put a little oil in there. All of this is plastic though, except for maybe that pivot, but I don't think I'd oil any of that. So I'm not going to oil it. I'm going to clean this up, start putting it back together, and I'm gonna see if I've got a LM386. Okay, so the one that's completely dead that I was theorizing might be the chip on here, the little amp chip or whatever. You know, what makes more sense is that the speaker's blown. And I don't have a good, I've got a good multimeter here, but I don't have a good set of test leads. So, but this is the best I can get. And it appears that, yeah, that speaker's blown. So I got this little crap multimeter. I'm at the house. That's all I had here, right? And so I got a big papa, but I don't have any leads for it. So I got these little crappy leads off of that thing. I don't think that's the meter. I think it's the leads. They're just junk. Might have to calibrate it, but I get no measurement at all across the speaker. So I think the speaker's bad, which would make a lot of sense. If the speaker's open, you wouldn't get a peep out of it, and that's what we got going on. So it's a 16 ohm, and it's a 1 watt. 16 ohm, 1 watt. It appears to be 4 inches wide. So I need a 4-inch speaker that's 16 ohm and 1 watt. You can go higher wattage because, you know, like a 5-watt speaker will run on the 1 watt that this little thing's putting out. But what I've kind of experienced in the past is that if you do that, it lowers the volume of the speaker, or it seems to. So if it's a 1 watt speaker and you're running it at 1 watt, you're running it kind of at full potential, right? But if it's a 5 watt speaker and you're running it at 1 watt, you have less volume. At least that's been my experience. That could be nonsense, but that's what I remember from my car stereo days. So I guess I need to get a replacement speaker for this one. So that's first. So all of you people that don't like it when I rant about China, this cheap freaking piece of crap from China. Look, I stole the leads off of it. So if it ain't the flute, it's the freaking leads. These little tiny leads have that much resistance in like 2 feet. Just junk, man. Crap. It's crap. Buy American. Look, this thing here is 45 years old. Still working good, baby. 45 years. So I don't completely know how that little tiny circuit is designed, but the LM386, the impedance of the speaker can be as low as 4 ohms. So I don't need to keep a 16 ohm speaker. They probably just use that because that's what they had available. So I just need a 4-inch speaker that's a couple watts. I might up the wattage just a little bit if I do go down. So I'll try to get maybe an 8 ohm that's a 2 watt or something like that. Yeah, so I think because I'm having trouble finding a 16 ohm. So I'm gonna see if I can buy like a 4 ohm or an 8 ohm, and then we'll pop it in. I mean, the worst it can do is burn up that little chip. Who cares? We can just put another one in there. So one thing I was trying to figure out, that LM386 will only run off like 15 volts, but the way this appears to be wired is the power comes in here to the motor. I guess through a switch first. To the motor, and then the motor has a second winding on it, I guess, that makes 10.5 volts, and then that 10.5 volts is what's running the LM386. That's an interesting little design. And then there is a capacitor and a resistor that can change the gain. The gain is set on the thing at 20, but you can set it up to 200 by changing a resistor and a capacitor. It could be, though, that that's why they've got this potentiometer on here. Maybe it hooks to that pin and works that way. Yeah, look. There's the wiper of the potentiometer, and it's connected to pin 2. So the wiper of the pot is connected to pin 2. Pins 3 and 4 appear to be ground. Pin 1. Boop, 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 boop. This is interesting. Pin 3 is probably the source voltage. coming from here. What do you think? So they're using a diode to change the AC into DC coming in on pin 3. And if it's 10.5 volts AC, the diode's probably popping that up a little bit, so it might be 12 or 13 volts DC. I don't know how we could ever figure that out. No, I got the pins wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pin 6. Pin 6 must be the input voltage. Pin 8 is a capacitor connected between pin 1 and pin 8. So there's a capacitor. Yeah. So there's a capacitor between pin 1 and pin 8. I think that changes the gain. So if you messed around with that value, that might get you some more volume too. And they've got the volume on pin 2. And then one side of the volume is connected to ground, and the other side is connected to a resistor that runs to the tone arm. Okay, so the input is going through, yeah. So the tone arm signal comes in here, runs through a resistor, and then runs through the potentiometer before it goes in pin 2. Look, we're getting edumacated. So it says it's internally, the gain is internally set to 20. But if you put a resistor or a capacitor across pin 1 and 8, it changes it. And then pin 2 is the input, which we saw coming from the tone arm. And it runs through the potentiometer before that. Pin 3 and pin 4 they had grounded. Pin 5 is the output to the speaker. Pin 6 is the input voltage, like we were saying. I didn't see if pin 7 was hooked up. So I want to see what we've got a 2.2 microfarad capacitor between 1 and 8. Okay, it says if a capacitor is put from pin 1 to 8, it bypasses the 1.35 kilo ohm resistor. The gain will go up to 200. If a resistor is placed in series with the capacitor, the gain can be set to any value from 20 to 200. So basically, since they have a capacitor there, it's at maximum gain. So it's a big nada on that. We can't change that. We'll just leave it how it is. So it says that there's 2 inputs to it, and that if you bump the gain up, you really need to short one of an unused input to ground, or you'll get a bunch of noise. So that's why they've got pin 4 shorted to ground. So they're going right by the data sheet on this. That's pretty cool. All right, folks, so I got in my replacement speaker. So the best I could do was an 8 ohm 5 watt, which, if you'll remember, is exactly what I was saying I would rather not get, but it's going to be okay. We'll see what happens. So hopefully this will get us going. So I'm just going to swap just the speaker and see if that fixes our issue where we got nothing, right? And it should, because I'm testing it and I can't get any kind of reading on it. So let me break out the soldering iron. Look, there's one right over there. Let me get that sucker ready, and we'll swap this thing real quick. Okay, nice new one in there. All right, so I got better leads. I got some fluke leads for my fluke meter. I'm happy now. Can't get it. Nothing, right? On this one, now remember this is in circuit. Well, it's in circuit, so I'm not getting my 8 ohms because I've, you know, we're measuring with it connected to the little amplifier board. Okay, so but we got a speaker apparently that's fine. So we're ready to. I'm going to put the stuff back in place and then turn it over, and we're just going to turn it on and see if we can tell that the amplification's working. And then I guess I'm ready to put the platter back in. And we'll go from there. All right, so I cleaned up the old grease and I put some of our Super Lube synthetic grease on there that we use on the pinball machines all the time. And that ought to do it. All right, we're plugged up. Everybody keep your fingers crossed. All the way down. 33. Maybe. 45. Sounds like it might be hitting something in there. Maybe I got the cord in the wrong spot or something. So we are getting volume. All right, so now she's working. All right, let me try to actually play a record on it. Okay, so if the sound cuts off, it's because YouTube figured out what it is. What it is, nephew. Loud as it will go. When I threw away my toys. Okay, so it's working. Here's what I'm going to do. Just for giggles, we're going to change out that one cap that is supposed to be the one that sets the gain. So they have a 2.2 in there, and it says on the data sheet that it's supposed to be a 10 to put it at full gain at 200. So I'm going to take that 2.2 out. I'm going to put a 10 in and just see if that makes it louder. We already went from a 16 ohm speaker to an 8 ohm speaker, which I believe would make it louder, but I'm not positive. So I'm going to change that 2.2 out and put a 10 in it and see if that gets it any louder. So there's our 2.2, and it is between pins 1 and 8. All right, so we put a 10 microfarad in there. So I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to replace the other two one at a time just to see if it improves the quality of the sound any. I doubt it. But let's see if that made it a lot louder or if there's no change at all. I don't think it changed it at all. So they put the 2.2 in there. They must have had it matched to the cartridge or something where they knew that's all they needed instead of the 10. So putting a 10 in does not help at all. Okay, so I'm just gonna we're gonna replace those other two caps one at a time just to see if it improves quality at all. Okay, so the first one is this 470/16 here, which is basically a filter capacitor. The power is coming in from a winding on the motor. Comes over 12 volts or whatever we figured out it was. And then it runs through this diode. So now it's DC, baby. And it's pin 6, it looks like. But you can see that the trace also goes through and connects to one side of the capacitor and the other side is to ground. So filter cap. Let me make sure that's pin 6. Yeah, pin 6. So we'll swap that and just see if it sounds any better. I doubt it. All right, filter cap replaced. We'll play a different part of the song, so hopefully it doesn't mute it. No difference at all. So the last one appears to be in line to the pickup. I'm wrong. It's in line to the speaker. Interesting. 220 microfarad. Yeah. Okay, so we'll swap it.
I'm a girl watcher. I'm a girl watcher. Watching her go by. My.
Okay, so replacing that last cap, I think did give us some more volume, but it's basically to the point that it's distorted, which might be because the cartridge isn't that great, or it might be because that speaker's cheap. You know, if you turn it down a little bit, it sounds pretty decent, but for what it is. So I think this one's fixed. You can hear all of the motor noise though. It's just loud. You know, this is just a loud record player. It would be fine for a kid. So I guess that's how it was intended anyway. All right, I'm gonna glue some of these things back down and then put this one back together and we'll call this one done. So in my opinion, recapping those 3 caps doesn't do a freaking thing, waste of time. Your best bet is you might have a bad speaker, you might have a bad cartridge if yours doesn't work right. The caps, that little soundboard's probably just fine. Very cool. All right, so I think that one's pretty good. So the other one, we had the turntable. The turntable's not turning at the correct speed. Probably going to be the grease on it, and it sounds kind of crappy. It is loud. But check this out. This thing sounds pretty good on certain records. Okay, people, so the problem with this one is the needle is all messed up. I want to show you something on the side of it there. See the FP for Fisher Price on the side of it? So these are special needles that they had made. All right, so basically the needles broke off. Okay. You're not going to believe what I did. I did it. I said to heck with it. So I bought a new old stock. Now, it's a 911-DS77. So I believe that means 911 is the part number basically, and the D is diamond, the S is sapphire, and then 7 is the size of the tip, and then the other 7 is the size of the other tip. So it's diamond, sapphire, 7 mil, 7 mil. I guess it's mil. And I'm sure it says that on the back probably as well. So this is the one that you need. Now, I wish that it was $9.95. This record player, I think I bought it for $5. This isn't the one that wouldn't make any sound. I paid $10 for that one, and we just fixed it with the speaker. So it's been a few days, by the way. But I went ahead and ordered this. This freaking thing, $32 shipped. $32 for a toy that I already paid $5 for. Oh, Lordy. Boy, it's a good thing that this is fun. If this wasn't fun, I'd be crazy to do that, right? But I kind of want to get the thing fixed. You know, I'm a salesman. So somebody's going to come in my shop and give me $50 for this thing, and I'll make $10. I'm going to get $50 out of this toy. Right? So the other one, I got a little more profit margin in, so it'll all work out. But good Lord, this is an expensive hobby, folks. $32. And I don't even know if it works yet. Okay, so it just pushes in. I've been using these as like a pair of needle nose pliers to very carefully do like one of them to get it in and out. So let me see if I can install it. All right, so while I was at it, I went ahead and replaced the capacitors. I don't think it really does much, but I had them laying right here, and I had the thing open, so why not? Preventative maintenance. It could be that the thing's working fine now, but after it runs for a couple hours, one of the caps starts tripping. So we got new caps in it. The motor I cleaned whenever you remember I took the platter off. I don't know if I filmed that part. I think I did the other one, but maybe not this one. And there's nothing else really to it, you know. So let's see if she'll work with the new needle in it. I don't know if I showed this earlier, but this is what you want, people. Metal Pan Phillips head screws, number 6, 5/8 of an inch long. Which one's the original one, huh? You can't tell. It's because they're the exact same thing. It's just one has a really weird head on it. The other one has a standard Phillips head on it. So you want the, of course you're supposed to have the plastic one, but these metal ones are so similar. So similar, people. Number 6, 5/8 of an inch long. Make all your problems go bye-bye. All right, folks, so there you go. The end of that was probably all messed up because YouTube probably doesn't want me playing such a great song. Oh, heaven forbid somebody find this song and go buy a CD or something with it on it. So leave your comments below. Make sure to give me a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you, even though YouTube wouldn't let you listen to it. And I'll see you on the next video. Hey, make sure to check out my brother's channel, my brother Donnie. The link's down below. So we'll see you back here in a couple days with another arcade game, pinball, or jukebox video. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I did.